Hey guys, welcome back. Another little video tutorial for you. This time it's going to be on the Articles of Confederation and Shays Rebellion. If you guys paid attention in class when we were talking the other day, we were talking about the Articles of Confederation was essentially the first document that created the first form of American government. Now today we operate under the Constitution of the United States, but that wasn't around during this time here. Instead, we operated under the Articles of Confederation. And a confederation, by definition, is just basically a loose union of those states all combined together. And when you had this loose union, there were a bunch of problems that came along with it. So we're going to kind of delve into that today and see what it brought us to, okay? Ultimately, first of all, I want to do a little backwards thinking to lead you up to the Articles. Lexington and Concord occurs April 19th, 1775. A little over a year later, July 4th, 1776, we declare our independence from Britain. The country, now that we're independent, has to come up with a way to govern ourselves. And it takes a year and 4 months later for the Continental Congress to come up with the Articles of Confederation. So you can see this isn't something that they just slapped together in 2 short nights. A year and 4 months later. So the Articles are basically our first form of government. However, the Articles are going to leave us in a very weak position when it came to governing ourselves. George Washington actually was quoted as saying, "I predict the worst consequences from a half-starved, limping government, always moving upon crutches and tottering back and forth at every step." So, what's wrong with the Articles? First, it basically creates a one-branch form of government. There was no president created. They all feared that if they made a branch that contained one person, that person would become king. So they were scared to death of creating anything that resembled a king back home like in England. Second, there was no system of courts either to help settle disputes between the states. Basically, the Articles created a legislature, a Congress, where each state got one vote, no matter how big the state was. So basically, instead of like we have today, we have 3 branches of government today. Back then, there was just a legislative branch or a Congress, not even 2 houses of Congress. It was each state got one vote. Another big problem was that there was no way for Congress to collect taxes. Can you imagine a government that operates without money? The only way that federal programs could be funded was for the federal government to ask states for their money. And you can imagine how that went over. Think of all of our federal programs today that just simply wouldn't be if we had to rely on state taxes alone. Below is just some of America's budget for 2015. Social Security was number 1, which at $1.275 trillion. Medicare came in at $1 trillion. The United States military, $700 billion. Interest on U.S. debt. Yeah, that's interest that we're paying back on money that we have borrowed from other countries. Interest alone, $229 billion. You can go down through here and look at the rest of them if you want to. Hit pause, but you just get an idea how much money it takes to run this country of ours. Plus, there's no federal money system. Again, we talked in class. I'll just go through and give you the same example. Imagine you drive it in New Jersey this weekend. You try to pay for gas. The clerk laughs at your green money from Pennsylvania. You're told New Jersey money is pink, and he cannot take the money that you have because he's not sure what it's worth. Each state had their own money, but no one could figure out if a New Jersey dollar was worth a Pennsylvania, New York, or Delaware dollar. Finally, the other problem under the Articles is that for Congress to pass any laws to help move the country forward, 9 of 13 states had to vote to approve the new law. That's 70% of all the states at the time would have to agree. You can barely pass anything with a simple majority today. 9 of 13 just to move forward? I know 9 of 13 maybe doesn't sound that impossible. But again, like we talked about in class, try getting a bunch of 12 friends together along with yourself to decide what you're going to eat for lunch. You think 9 of you will agree on one place? Maybe. Good luck, though. It's quite a task. And if that wasn't enough, the country hobbled along using this document as their government until 1787 after Shays Rebellion. The war was over with Britain. The Treaty of Paris had been signed in 1783. Revolutionary fighters like Daniel Shay returned to their regular lives back home. The only problem is many of these colonial fighters have been promised money for their service to their country by a Congress that had no way of coming up with the money to pay them. So the revolutionary fighters went home with their independence, but no money. So the soldiers had no way of paying taxes once they got back home, since they hadn't been working. And soon they began getting notices like the one below stating that either they pay their taxes on their home, land, or farms, or they'll be taken by the state governments. Daniel Shay, a Massachusetts farmer, was not about to lose his home and land to an ungrateful country for which he'd fought so hard to support. So he and about 1,200 other farmers and former soldiers marched to capture the state's arsenal before marching on Boston. In the end, Shays Rebellion was put down by wealthy merchants who hired their own mercenaries or militia to put down the rebellion. The rebellion was hurting their wealthy businesses, and they needed it to come to an end if they were going to continue to make money. It was clear that private citizens would have to end this rebellion, since the United States government didn't have the power to put it down themselves. How is a government that can't generate money going to equip and pay soldiers to serve in the United States military? A constitutional convention was called for in May of 1787. This was supposed to just simply be a meeting to revise or fix the problems with the Articles of Confederation, but it soon became clear that there were just too many problems, and they would have to look for another solution. So, the summer of 1787, 55 delegates will meet in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Again, the goal was just to fix the Articles, but it wasn't long before they realized that the Articles of Confederation could not be fixed and a new government was needed. Hopefully by now you can guess what their solution was going to be. The Constitution of the United States will replace the Articles of Confederation. So, just real quick, recap. Okay, if you want to, you can pause this, take a look at it. The weakness: Congress had no power to levy or collect taxes. So the outcome is the government was always short of money. Congress had no power to regulate foreign trade. Fighting broke out among states, and trading with other countries was difficult. Congress had no power to enforce its laws, so the government depended on the states for law enforcement. Approval of 9 states was needed to enact new laws, so it was difficult to enact new laws. Okay, guys, well, that pretty much wraps up our lesson here today on the Articles of Confederation and Shays Rebellion. I hope that it sort of makes a little bit more sense to you. Yes, the Articles of Confederation was our first form of government here in the United States, but ultimately it had so many holes in it, it was so weak that they had to come up with something else, and what they're going to come up with is going to be the Constitution of the United States. At this point, like I said, this video tutorial is just supposed to be that, just a tutorial. If you have questions beyond this point, I ask you and encourage you, come and see me in class and maybe we'll hammer it out together. Okay, until then, I'll talk to you next time.